Hello, with this video we conclude our motorbike tour through Scotland in May 2025. We ride from Edinburgh to Newcastle to take the ferry to Amsterdam. GPX tracks are in the description below. Let's go! Our penultimate day begins in Edinburgh and takes us via Roslin Chapel to Bamburgh Castle, which should be familiar to fans of the Netflix series The Last Kingdom. The castle also appears in many films such as Robin Hood and Transformers The Last Knight. Here are a few pictures for you to enjoy. After that, we were supposed to continue on to St. Mary's Lighthouse on a small tidal island. At low tide, you can reach the listed lighthouse without getting your feet wet. In addition to the decommissioned lighthouse itself, there is a small museum, a visitor center, and a cafe. Why originally and should? Because at 12 noon we realized that we would miss our ferry if we continue to crawl along single track roads. So we had to change our plans and drove pretty quickly to Newcastle to catch the ferry. After the 16-hour crossing we landed in Amsterdam and then drove straight to Dortmund, where our motorcycle tour ended. We have included the originally planned route below in the description as GPX tracks. After leaving Edinburgh, we drive through the small village of Roslin in Midlothian. Roslin is known, among other things, for the Roslin Institute, where Dolly the sheep was cloned. Here we turn into the car park of another highlight of Roslin, the Roslin Chapel. The 15th century Gothic church is associated with the Freemasons. This fraternal community based on the values of liberty, equality, fraternity, tolerance and humanity is not a religion. Originally formed from stonemason guilds, they strive to become better people who put their principles into practice in everyday life. This only worked to a limited extent here. The chapel contains an apprentice column whose splendor eclipsed the other columns created by the master stonemason. Out of jealousy, the master killed his apprentice, for which he was sentenced to death. Ironically, the apprentice column represents the tree of life. Different times, different customs. We didn't actually go inside the chapel itself, which can be seen in the Hollywood blockbuster The Da Vinci Code. And even if we had, we wouldn't have been able to show you any pictures as filming and photography are prohibited inside the chapel. The beautiful winding route then took us on through Gorglen Woodland Park. We continue in fine weather passing Vorgay Country Park and heading towards Humby. After all the rain of the last few days, we enjoy the dry and empty single-track roads, even if the area is not as spectacular as the north of Scotland. Of course, we noticed the tall hedges that are ubiquitous here. They serve to enclose pastures or demarcate properties. Even Scotland Yard recommends thorny hedges at least 6 feet high to deter burglars. According to the police, a total of 17 different plant species are suitable for forming a natural defense against burglars. Firethorn, hawthorn and barberry are said to scratch or prick unsuspecting crooks. Of course, every year there are countless neighborhood disputes over hedges. For example, a man in Lincolnshire was so annoyed by his neighbor's hedge that he regularly got up at night and urinated on it until it finally died. The neighbor filmed him doing this and reported him to the police, whereupon the midnight piddler had to spend a day in prison. We continue behind the small hamlet of Humby through the beautiful county of Haddingtonshire. Here we pass the town sign for the small village of Gifford, which has a population of around 800. We pass a listed sandstone building on the right-hand side and the village hall on the left-hand side. The heart of community life, it can be hired online for events or parties and is run by a small committee of volunteers. Without public funding, it relies entirely on donations. Shortly before leaving the village, we pass Chester Parish Church. One of Gifford's most famous sons is honored with a plaque on a wall near the church. John Witherspoon was one of the signatories of the American Declaration of Independence and became the first president of Princeton University. Every now and then you are reminded that you are not alone on the road here. We enjoy the flat green landscape for the last time as the plateau appears on the horizon. We quickly approach the Lammermuir Hills. Total contrast. We have now arrived in a moor. Lammermuir is a landscape of bare and beautiful hills. The Lammermuir Hills, also known simply as the Lammermuirs. The name Lammermuir literally means bog of lambs. The hills extend over several counties and the slopes are richly grazed by sheep. These hills are only crossed by one main road, which is often closed in winter due to snow. The Lammermuirs themselves used to be densely forested, but the face of the area changed due to the influence of man. Where there used to be oak and birch trees and probably bears, moose and wolves, man cultivated and cleared the forest in the familiar way. Sheep farming was intensified up to the higher altitudes And, not least as a result, one of Scotland's typical moor and heathland landscapes was created. The Lammermuirs themselves used to be densely forested, but the face of the area changed due to the influence of man. Where there used to be oak and birch trees and probably bears, moose and wolves, man cultivated and cleared the forest in the familiar way. Sheep farming was intensified up to the higher altitudes and, not least as a result, one of Scotland's typical moor and heathland landscapes was created. Here we are in the Scottish Borders Council area. You saw the sign earlier. We are still about 12 miles north of the border with England. Unfortunately, we are realizing that at this leisurely pace we're going to miss our ferry. As announced, we'll have to take the motorway. Boring. And therefore no pictures until we arrive at the ferry. After our uneventful journey on the motorway, we join the queue in front of the ferry. The next morning it is advisable to be in the cargo hold early before disembarking. The access points are usually opened 15 minutes before arrival. The exit is noisy but surprisingly orderly. Sometimes the high average age of today's motorcyclist has its advantages. Despite having been checked in Newcastle, we have to go through customs again here. As everyone has their papers ready, the whole process is quick and orderly. Incidentally, there is a large petrol station just outside the terminal exit for those who still have a long journey ahead of them. We plan to use the motorway for most of the journey home. While we still found mostly empty motorways in the Netherlands, our original plans were obsolete miles before the German border. Our Home Secretary caused miles of traffic jams with this border controls, and that on a Sunday afternoon. As a result, we left the motorway early and continued on country roads. It may not have been faster, but it was much more pleasant than sitting in traffic between cars and breathing in their exhaust fumes. In the past, we might have simply ridden our motorbike between the cars to get to the front, but now that's too expensive for us in Germany. We'd face 1 point in Flensburg and a €100 fine. In the Netherlands, lane splitting is permitted if everyone is driving at no more than 25 miles per hour and you overtake in the left lane at a maximum speed of 6 miles per hour faster. We can also report that there were no border controls whatsoever on the country roads. So much for the usefulness of these controls on the motorway. So, what is our conclusion and what would we recommend? Scotland is very beautiful and full of sights. Our first tip is take your time to discover the places and sights. In our case, 11 days were not enough. For bikers, there are some winding roads, but most of them are in poor condition. Our second tip is choose an enduro bike. There are better destinations for super sports bikes and shoppers. The weather changes every 15 minutes. Rain gear is a must. Our third tip is don't underestimate the costs. Ferries, hotels, restaurants and entrance fees are not cheap. Bargain hunters with plenty of time can drive through France via the Eurotunnel and camp. Why not, if that's what you like? If you enjoyed our video, we would appreciate a thumbs up, as always. And if you would like to see more travel reports or motorbike videos, please subscribe to our channel. We have lots more planned for this year. Cheers!